stakes are high and needs are more complex when running an established consumer products brand. You've got mounting pressures across multi-channel sales, complex supply chains, inventory across multiple warehouses, and leadership needs fast, accurate data to make decisions. That's why leading brands partner with Baker Tilly, an accounting firm that specializes in the consumer product space. Their team understands the unique challenges of scaling product-based businesses, whether it's navigating transactions confidently, sales tax compliance, integrating ERP systems like NetSuite, or predictive analytics. Baker Tilly delivers. Discover how Baker Tilly's industry-focused services can help elevate your business. Visit bakertilly.com.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Jeremy, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be with you all. I like to start with a little scenario from childhood. I'll give you two stories. One is about shoes and one is about apparel and sportswear. So mid-'80s, I'm a youngster going to kindergarten and got to get a new pair of school shoes, right? I think it's a good tradition. We all like to do that. And, I didn't know what I wanted. Your mind is still developing. You're figuring out your identity, who you are, what you want to associate with. And I said, hey, Mom, I want the shoes with the waves on the side. I'm from California, San Clemente beach, surf community down there. And she didn't know what the shoes with the waves were on the side. If you think about that logo and that icon and what the Nike logo is, for me, I didn't know it was a swoosh. I'm 6 years old. And I said I wanted the wave shoes. That's all I knew about them. And she said, what are the wave shoes? I said, well, I think it's called Nike. Because I was in kindergarten, you learn how to read and spell, and you're learning about the four-letter word with the E at the end, and the vowel that precedes it is a long vowel, right? Like hike and bike. Okay, I want these shoes called Nike, and I didn't even know what they were. The power of the brand and the wave was something that got me, and I had to explain it and do it that way. So from a young age, it was, wow, this is like something that influences the kids, something that makes an impression on consumers. And from a very young age, all of us may find or remember the moments where we had a brand affinity or we had an attraction to something. The second example I use is related. It's in apparel, and it goes like this. I think in the beginning, same thing, back to school shopping for clothes. And as a youngster, at some point, I became label conscious for some reason. I don't know if it was negative influences or what it was, but you had to have the right label for your clothes, right? So, what I did is I said, Mom, hey, I want these certain labels. In my area in California, it was the surfwear brands. So things like Gotcha and Quicksilver and Billabong and some of those names that you might recognize from there. And they were expensive at the time, right? It was like $40 for a pair of shorts for a second grader at school. That's not going to work. So what my mom did was I had my clothes that I had grown out of, and maybe the year before I got like one pair of Gotcha shorts or Billabong shorts. But as I grew, I need more back to school things. So my mom said, hey, here's your options. I'm going to get you 2 pairs of Gotcha or Billabong shorts and 2 t-shirts if you want the name brands. Or I'm going to go to, we have a thing called Kmart down there. It's like a JCPenney Kmart. Or I'm going to go get you 8 pairs of shorts from Kmart and JCPenney, and I'm going to take the labels from your old Gotcha clothes and Billabong clothes, and I'm going to sew them on to your shorts. I get an 8 for 1 if I do it that way. Okay, I'll do that. Let's do that. So I go to school, and the Gotcha label that was sewn onto my shorts was in the wrong spot. My mom put it like 6 inches up and 3 inches over from the side seam. And the kids at school, this is California, like, what are those? Those are fake shorts. So I'm traumatized as a youngster. Had to take them back to my mom. Mom, no, you got to sew the labels onto the right spot. So I share that just from the idea of brand association, brand affinity, influence, in my life, where it comes and how we went from that to now. And there's a long story there and a journey there for me with brands, and especially in the apparel space and what it means and what the influence is. And, luckily I've been able to make a life and a career out of this. So, fast forward through the years, I came through branded space and apparel, brand manager, art director, creative director, designer on sportswear apparel through the years. Then got to a moment in my career journey where it was about time to start an entrepreneurial piece and be invited to founder partner and the Stance Socks company, which some of you know. The history there, there was a lot of a trauma going into it, really figuring out what it was. And we didn't know what the brand wanted to be. I came through a time in apparel and sportswear in my professional career where I was doing, wonderful things and campaigns and traveling the world and creating and working on world-class brands, which was really fun and exciting for me. Partners, Jeff. He said, "Hey, Aaron, it's time for something new. Here we go. You ready? Here's what we got. He said, let me preface it with this. We just had a great run with Skull Candy. Some of you know the brand. I know Mr. Jeff said, hey, Aaron, we just had a great run with Skull Candy. Here's the power of brands right now. It's about owning a single category. And if you can own a category, the leader in that category, there's a lot of leaders. Look at all the prominent brands, whether it's Apple or whether it's Nike or whether it's whoever it was, who was first in a space usually wins and has an advantage, and that's a great way to do it and build it. So I got an idea. We got a new category. Okay, what is this? Took me through the whole thing, and he said, well, we've got branded shoes, obviously. We've got all branded apparel, head to toe. We've got that. We've got sunglasses, and we've got hats, and there's leaders in that. And just had a big ring on Skull Candy. We're the leaders in headphones. We pioneered a category. Something that used to be Sony, and you had Bose, and it was silver and black, and that was it. Said, well, we got another category. You ready? It's socks. So that I thought he was joking, right? He said, no, listen, we've been looking, and we literally walked the aisles of Target and Walmart looking for categories of product, because categories win at the end of the day, just like Stanley, where if you can own a single category, best, walk down the aisle of Target and Walmart, and you go to the sock wall, the aisle, there's not a lot there, right? You get bags of 12 packs and gray and white, and maybe if you're lucky, you get an Argyle, and that's it. And there's, large billions of dollars being done in socks, great business case, large addressable market. We calculated it at 25 billion total addressable market just for socks. And it was, hey, let's make a real brand out of this. Look at what Skull Candy did with headphones. I believe we and you and us together, we can. So, the idea there is, hey, humble beginnings and finding a moment and single opportunities. If think about it, believe in it, doing it, jump off the cliff. There's fun things to be done and great businesses to be had. So I bring a thought and topic here, 4 things that great brands always get right. This is not necessarily just about Stance. I don't want to share that. There's a lot of things that Stance has done well, a lot of things it's done horribly wrong. But this is just about things that we can apply to our businesses, things that I see, a couple contemporary examples, what's going on in brand space, whether it's coming from a startup point of view or applying to an experienced, a growing, or a changing brand point of view. So first thought in brands, and we may think, I have functioned as a chief brand officer and marketing director and a lot of different things taking care of a brand. And I've come to a realization that at the end of the day, no matter how obsessed you are with your brand, how good you are, how shape it, the idea is the brand is not what you internally think or say it is. It's what your customers think. There's two nuances there. What you say your brand is what we do in our marketing, in our messaging, everything we're saying, doing, videos, showing, right? But at the end of the day, it's what the customers think in their mind and know about you. And those are two different things. So whatever your brand mission is, or your purpose, or where you think you fit, the idea is that if we can, I don't want to say control and mind control, and that's not the right thing, but it's the idea of customers think about you, form their impressions, and that's what's the most important. Mission is the heart of the brand. You have to define it. We have all kinds of diagrams and charts and ways to quantify this idea of brand and concept, but in the end, it is a bit of a cloud. There's a lot of mystery around it. There's no single science to it, regardless of what the performance marketers say, regardless of what it's an ongoing, changing, and a fast-paced situation. I put this up for the idea that the mission, the elevator pitch, we've heard that idea, distill that down, simplify it in a way that's easily understood, easily digested, and that serves everyone. It serves the brand and the customer. The strategies help us navigate. There's different components of that, whether it's audience, purpose, positioning, identity, and experience. A strategy in place will help us navigate this crazy world. And this ecosystem can be quite complex. This brand chart, I think there's 30 bullet points on here that contribute to brand. And in each of our companies, the way that we focus on these things, monitor, do damage control, invest in, all adds up to a brand experience, which is a part of the consumer's mind. I've gone through different components of this wheel, and it adds up to brand health. And I don't think there's a brand out there that is 100% healthy at any one time. So the concept of brand management in our companies should be looking at this wheel at all times and saying, where are we doing good? Where are we doing bad? What needs help? Where do we need to invest? Where are we over-indexing? And how do these components add up to our goals? So in the end, we get to I'm going to get to four things here, and that's what I want to focus on. My experience, the things I've seen. Accomplish the ideas, turn head, create trust, and how do we get chosen over our competition at the end of the day? Even when Stance socks came out, and at the time in our space, which we called action sports, there actually wasn't a lot of competition, and that was one of the magical carpet rides to see that growth curve up and to the left look like a real steep skate ramp, and that was really beautiful. There wasn't a lot of competition there in that particular space. In the end, we will all eventually have competition, whether it's generic cooler mugs that are coming out or Me Too brands that show up or copycats. Eventually, competition will show up. So here's four thoughts and some examples that I've seen, some good, some bad, some positive and negative, and maybe some things that you've experienced or have noticed in the marketplace as well. So number one, at the beginning, I'm going to say is clarity. And the landscape moves fast. There's a lot going on out there. So if you don't get what your brand is about in 5 seconds, the elevator pitch that they say, nothing else matters. Great brands make their value impossible to miss. Here's a recent example that I saw with Vans, part of the VF Corp. In the media, they've noted some of their financial struggles, but recently this Vans Valentino piece came out, which to me provided clarity, possibly a direction shift from this real core action sport skateboarding positioning that Vans had done and focused on some of their classics and basics. To position it with Valentino in a way that is surprising, is beautiful, it's elegant, and very quickly establishes who and what they want to be now. Clean imagery, elevated, two fantastic brands coming together, highlighting the power of collaboration and putting Vans on a great pedestal. Here's another one, and this is actually not about shoes. And you would say, the brand Comme des Garçons is a storied fashion brand from Tokyo, now in Europe. They've had their Play division with Converse collaboration for years. Recently in Costco. So say and think what you will about both of these brands. And I put this up as an example as a Costco play. And the idea that the Costco brand, as a fantastic retailer providing value, providing the unexpected, say what you will, sometimes by questionable means, getting the goods in there, but a beautiful, brilliant play by Costco to elevate themselves and create an impression in the consumer's mind that says, we're not just about, pizza and rotisserie chicken and $5 pumpkin pies, but we can bring you some value with these high-end fashion houses and some goods at a discounted price. I think these are $150 retail, but at Costco you get one. All right, the second one is emotion, and so we all want to feel something. And so great brands make you feel something. Again, this isn't quantifiable. This is just from the heart. This is something that is difficult to capture depending on what your product and your audience is. We all want to feel something, and we want to know that brands care about us and they can surprise us. And I put this one up as an example of emotion. We love Liquid Death. I thought we were pretty smart and sharp making cool socks and having a run at it, taking a mundane category and building a fun business. But Mike from Liquid Death, I think, won everything because he could he took water and made Liquid Death, which is it's a case study that we always look at, but as a brand person, between the positioning, the brilliance, the dedication, courage, the creativity, there's so much goes into this. And at the end of the day, he puts the emotion into water and has been wildly successful. Emotions aren't always positive. The story of the shoes and the Adidas and the Puma brothers, if you know this. Long story, there's a lot there. Brothers fighting in Germany and breaking off. And the last thing I read about this is the brothers died in the 70s and they were buried on the opposite sides of town because they were competitors their whole lives. And so when they split off and they formed, I think Adidas was first and they formed Puma second, a lifelong feud. But that emotion is what fueled the success of the companies. So emotion has to be a part of every brand in what we do. And then this is a recent one and a great example of emotion that, take it as you will, positive or negative, whether it gets the press, it gets noticed, but when you mix in politics and technology and brands, there's a lot there. And there's a lot of emotion that goes along with this and what's going to drive somebody to be in one camp or the other, or literally rebrand their Cybertruck into a Toyota and Model I don't know what that one is, the Model 3 into an Audi, but a beautiful example of brand emotion and where consumers lie and where their loyalties lie and the statements they want to make with their brands. The third is obsession. And, there's a lot of passion here. We have a love for our brands. Consumers love their brands. As brand people and marketers, I know we love them. Listen, adapt, and go deep. Customers are not data points, they're the North Star. And so, I think we've been through the, enough time I have at Stance where it was all about passion and emotion. Marketing phase where it was where I get to the customers data points obsession what this and there's a lot of Stance examples that I can use. There's a couple. I just pulled out this one. So one was the tattoos. And, when we did Stance, it was actually a tricky exercise because, I personally came from branded space in apparel and sportswear. It was really easy and fun to create the product, do the photo shoots, tell the story, have the marketing campaigns, all the beautiful things that can go along with creating a company in fashion. And then when it was all we have to work with is a sock, that became like more of a challenge, right? It's always second place to the shoe. And it's the last thing that people either think about or want to care about. And, the secret disclosure here is a Stance sock, the physical construction and the quality. We did the R&D and we built that. But it hadn't changed in 10 years, right? But the design, the pattern, the color has a little bit. So it became a 99% branding exercise and kind of a 1% product development exercise. And, that would be different from some of our different companies, but you could see how that would be true. And so, that brand was thought through A to Z, toe to head, and it was everything from how the product was displayed, hanging forward, flat-facing front instead of folded in bundles. It was creating freestanding racks with an oversized hook. The hook was a 1-inch diameter, and it fit on a 1-inch diameter peg to prevent competitors that were using the 1/8-inch hook physically not fit on a 1-inch peg, so we could keep competitors off of our racks. It was collaborations that we did strategically with influencers, cultural people, artists. It was creating a community that we called punks and poets that represented two sides of the human experience mindset. The punks were the aggressive, the artists, the musicians, and the poets were the intellectuals and the thinkers and the introverts, and creating an entirely new ecosystem and brand landscape, all for one single humble, lowly product. And the logo placement we strategically embroidered right on your ankle. So all those things added up to a brand experience about obsession with the brand. And I put this example up of the tattoos on the ankle where I didn't intend that, but it's starting to happen. And then there's a guy here in the middle, this photo, there's a gentleman, his name's the Stance Runner. And that is his closet of Stance socks. And so, there's an obsession piece there that happens that I don't know if anyone was expecting. But it was a part of the brand fun and brand success. The purple cow is a quick thought. I'll just kind of read it in the end. Mr. Beast says, the purple cow, some of you may be familiar with this. We've applied this lately in some of our work. In the age of content overload, being good isn't enough. You have to be remarkable, surprising, and instantly compelling. Let me see if I can get this to play. There's a couple words in here that are questionable, but I'm just going to play it for effect.
To that purple cow effect. Mr. Beast says all of his success is because of the purple cow effect, which is exactly why it's so hard for other people to replicate. Mr. Beast, aka Jimmy Donaldson, cracked the code to viral success early in his career, and it's now led to a $700 million business empire that includes food brands and an Amazon TV series. And on a recent episode of the Diary of a CEO podcast, he explained how he did it. To go viral, you have to do something that's never been done before. If you're driving down the road and you see a cow, who cares? It's a cow. But if you're driving down the road and you see a purple cow, you've never seen that before and it's something you aren't expecting. You're going to go, holy shit. You're going to tell your friends about it. You're going to remember that. Why the fuck was there a purple cow? Donaldson said that's how he approaches video creation. Be a purple cow. When you're scrolling through social media, there are things that have been done before. You'll scroll past it and you'll never think about it again. He compares those things to normal cows. But quote, then there are the purple cow ideas, which is what I try to do, that make you go, what the fuck? I've never seen that. But he says that's exactly why it's a challenge and others often fail at it. If it's something that's never been done before, there's usually a reason, because it's very hard. You have to train yourself not to resent very difficult, complex, hard, original problems and actually run toward them. You really have to lean into that purple cow effect. Mr. Beast says all of his to that purple cow effect. Mr. Beast says all of his success is because...
There we go. Get rid of him. Okay. Last point is consistency. Brands shouldn't reinvent themselves every 3 months. Sometimes with the speed of media and social, you think that. Stance had been guilty of that a couple times, where it's not necessarily about reinvention unless that's your trajectory and part of the plan to get in, get out. But longevity means not reinventing. It's sticking to your brand ethos and not necessarily being subject to every whim, every trend, every little different thing that pops up, because frankly, there's too many of them. And the discipline to stay the course is what can contribute to a successful brand. Closing thought here is about balancing brand deposits and withdrawals. So a brand is a living thing. It's an organism. It's like a person. There's things that we can do on our journeys with our brands that can enhance them or can destroy them. At different forks in the road, it's always a decision. Sometimes it's, you've heard death by 1,000 cuts. Sometimes it's a single fork in the road is going to alter the course of history. But every positive interaction that we do, whether it's an investment, a strategy, something that we've done to enhance the longevity and success of the brand, is a deposit. Anything that we do that takes away from that is a withdrawal, just like a bank account. It can be a distribution choice. It could be a collaboration choice. There's a million things that we can do to nitpick our brands to death, and they can ultimately fall apart. At different moments in time, there can be, hey, this is a year or a strategy or a campaign, and this is all about a brand deposit. We're putting back into the machine. Other times, hey, we're going to do a couple funny things, a couple weird things that may degrade our brand, and that's a withdrawal. Somebody, CEO, brand manager, strategist, whatever it is, has to be aware, monitor, and make sure that those things in the end balance out. And the last thought, we stay rich by being intentional with every move, consistently investing, what we stand for, and how we show up. So hopefully there's some thoughts in there. These are things that I've seen, learned, applied to my brands and projects. It's not true and the same for everyone. Hopefully there's some thoughts in there that come into play. So that's what I have today. Thank you. Let's go to Q&A portion.
Yeah, we have a question back here. Let's do maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good stuff from a marketing standpoint. Appreciate it. I'm a huge Stance fan too, by the way. I would imagine internally there were have been discussions around a Stance shoe. Seems like an interesting adjacency or extension. Looks like you guys are in, some extensions, underwear, a partnership with a water bottle company that I won't mention here. And but how have you navigated that, the interest and maybe excitement of trying to push into adjacencies or extensions, not doing that and staying really core to who you are from a brand standpoint and within the category?
Yeah, that's been a consistently difficult question to monitor and to manage, to build to. The pressure always comes from the idea of growth, right? To say, how much can you do in socks? Then how much can we do in adjacent categories, t-shirts, underwear, which I think are naturally adjacent? And then what happens when, call it more unnatural adjacencies are put on the table? And that's everything from saying, hey, as long as the product is knit, like socks, like knit stocking caps or knit t-shirts, does that make sense? Footwear has been one. The closest thing that was ever done from an R&D point of view was kind of a sock slipper type of thing. Yeezy was wearing them for a while. He had a knit piece. And there's a moment it came through in high fashion. There was a Balenciaga knit sock slipper thing. There's more of a debate of, do we have brand permission? Do we have the investment dollars? Do we have the firepower, the know-how to go be a shoe company? That's an entirely different operation. And so I think it's always about how much growth needs to happen within your core competency versus how much growth needs to be manufactured or fabricated in areas that aren't natural. Probably the latest one at Stance was an exploration into apparel, toe-to-head concept that we came up with post-COVID that, call it mildly to not successful because there was too much going on, not enough manpower, investment dollars to go be an apparel brand. Right? So it's since scaled back a little. So, when you look at the founding principle and investment thesis that says single categories win, Skullcandy headphones win, Stanley mugs win, Stance socks win. Anytime you go outside of those areas, you don't know. We always cited Oakley sunglasses went into footwear. Go figure. So that one didn't work. And even Oakley.
It's good stuff, Aaron. You talked about like pay to play used to be the game, and it's not quite the game anymore. How are you looking at direct to consumer? You guys are masters versus your own retail versus kind of big box retail type stuff. How do you guys look at that play there between?
Looking at the balance, profitability of each of those channels, what's going on, what investment needs to happen in each one, what kind of expertise do we have in each of those areas. Probably the most notable would be an expansion into retail. And right now there's 20 standalone Stance retail stores. I would call them mildly successful to break even, right? And, that strategy was really, it came from a forced growth perspective, like, a store, do $1 million in top line revenue in each one, add 50 of those, add 50 million to top line, and that's our plan, right? The economics in retail for socks doesn't quite work. The majority of the mall stores where the people are, and we tried things, we tried High Street, we put a store in Soho in New York next door to Bloomingdale's, and the rent was $125,000 a month, and it was 4,000 square feet. And we had Rihanna come for an opening launch party and had a concert there. And so that was like not sustainable, obviously, and not smart. So we'd since learned, well, okay, we're going to do mall stores. We're going to, where's the Van store in the mall? And let's put a Stance store next to that. The stores are 1,000 square feet. Ooh, we need a lot of socks to fill the space, dollars per square foot, all the retail metrics. Socks alone don't work. We need to add other categories just to support retail, which opens up a whole nother can of worms. So retail has since contracted, in the spirit of, you need a 300 square foot store, but where are those? Those are hard to find in the mall, So there's different things, different categories, different areas of revenue that are harder to get, right? And sometimes come at a loss. And then you balance that with brand perception and accessibility, and there's different things there. So, I think those are a few examples, but it's been a constant testing, learning, fail fast, move on, and find the things that work. In the end, it comes down to, for us, for Stance, specialty retail, which has always been there in bread and butter. That's what was started and founded. A few key partners. And then, there's an international piece there. And then I would say the other one might be the collaboration piece and partnering with those that have additional good distribution that we want and putting a project or a line or something together that can enhance clean, profitable distribution. But, opening stores is not always the right answer.
Aaron, good to see you again.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. I've watched this with Skull Candy and Stance now, and you made something that's mundane and boring. Probably would have seen. So
the relevancy comes down to core audience acceptance, adjacencies to brands that help us. That's what Stance means. And, that one comes down to socks are a humble category, right? And through fashion cycles, they come and they go. And, there was a time when the way footwear was styled, the way pants were being worn, socks became more important. Then you go through a fashion cycle where jeans get wider, shoes get puffier or more expensive, whatever it is. And there's actually something that says, you know what? A 6-pack of white socks serves me well. So there's different things that go on through the cycle for relevancy. The pop culture thing had been bread and butter for us. And that came through the collaborations with the athletes. I mentioned Rihanna, there's basketball, NBA stars, cultural people. There's a whole army of punks and poets that helped made the brand relevant. So category, it became important to show the brand and show the logo, right? No matter what color it was or what the design was. The whims of fashion come and go. Right? It's something. If you look at Stance right now, there's actually a lot of solid colors. There's quality and there's comfort and there's brand built in there. But it's not just what's loud and colorful. So you also have to adapt, read the signs of the times, and know that there's also high and low periods that come through it. You can look at everything from Crocs to Ugg boots to Tom's shoes. Like there's a lot that comes and goes and it's back and it gets retroed. So, there's just realize it's not always an up and to the right curve, I think is how you have to look at longevity. And then end game, there's Stance was created with a certain end game in mind from the beginning. And then you come to what's the end game. It's, you know, the world's a different place. Market tells you what you're worth. Thank you.
In the fast paced world of retail, technology can be a transformative force, reshaping the way businesses operate and consumers shop. Is your retail organization leveraging technology to its top capabilities? Evolving your technology capabilities can help enhance visibility into your business, decrease risk of increasing cybersecurity incidents, accelerate productivity with artificial intelligence, and more. Deeply immersed in the consumer products industry, Baker Tilly professionals bring customized solutions that can help you find the right technology fit. Visit bakertilly.com to learn more.